I released my second game Hyperslice at the end of January, and I'm almost ready to release a second one. I worked on a word game roguelike on the side, and it has a demo if you want to try. You can play it right now, Lexispell on Steam or itch, but maybe watch the video first. I didn't even do a proper presentation. Here's Lexispell, a word game roguelike with a physics twist. Letters fall down in the cauldron, merge together when they are similar, and it makes them grow and have a higher value. The goal is simple. You spell words, you score points, and you need to reach enough score to get to the next chapters. Yes, it's very similar to Balatro, it's the main inspiration. Along your run, you buy scrolls to increase your score, but also runes, potions, and wands. Okay, now you know what Lexispell is, but let's rewind a little bit to the starting point of the project in April 2025. At that point, I'm struggling quite a bit with game dev. I've been trying to work on Hyperslice to release it, but I found it very difficult. I'm looking for other projects to prototype to motivate me. This is when I decide to try this idea that's been bugging me for a while. I was envisioning a mix between a word game and Suka. The original idea was something like swiping the letters and to form words and remove the letters. Little did I know this would actually become the letter rush mode I have today. Balatro was still all the rage at that time, especially in the indie space, where everyone was adapting the idea to different mechanics and other ideas. I'm a simple game dev, so I was also trying to do that. Letters falling down a cauldron looked really close to another game that was pretty popular at some point, Suka, so I had the feeling I could do something. I'm not a huge word game guy, but I was playing Wordle and other word games regularly with my girlfriend, so ideas were coming as we were playing. Also, a few years ago, I thought about making a word game for my grandma. She was diagnosed with some form of dementia, and I thought exercising her brain with a simple word game could help. I didn't end up doing it, unfortunately, as the situation quickly evolved and it appeared difficult for her to interact with a tablet and play a video game. But the idea was still somewhere in the back of my head. After some prototyping, I arrived at something playable quite fast. The first iterations modified the game quite drastically. I went through a bunch of variations, but every time I had the feeling that this could go somewhere. Around the same time, GMTK made a video about his new game Wordplay. I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw it, my reaction was, fuck, someone made the game I wanted to make. But I quickly realized that it wasn't the case. We were approaching the idea very differently, and in the end, it confirmed the idea that there was an interest for this type of game. I even thought, oh cool, I could reach out and do a bundle with him. At the time, I'm not working on Lexispell 100% of the time. I'm still trying to work on my game Hyperslice, and in August, I took some time to work on Oval with Woland, a game that is coming to Steam soon, by the way. Check out the itch page in the description if you're interested. I did 2 semi-private playtests and the response were divided. It nearly got me and I doubted the idea quite a lot, but in the end it just pushed me to rework the formula. Again, the thing is I had a gut feeling that the idea could work. For example, merging was not really happening because we have 26 different letters instead of like 6 or 7 objects in a Suka-like game. Thankfully, with some tweaking in the probabilities, it worked okay. I also realized that merging should not be the main focus. Initially, I tried to make it an active thing, like you decide where the next letter would drop, but that wasn't really working. It was driving you away from the core of the game, which is forming letters. From there, I was just trying a lot of stuff. I was playing with the game every night on my tablet, trying to get a feel for what worked and what didn't. I also playtested it with my girlfriend, which was interesting to get an immediate outside perspective. The playtests were initially done privately on itch, and that was super easy to push builds on the web and get people to try. I truly believe it's a good platform for iterating fast, and I've also used that for the demo, but I'll talk about that a bit later. In October 2025, I decided it was time to publish a public Steam page as the game was shaping up nicely and I wanted to start gathering those precious wish lists with the goal of participating in the February Next Fest. At the time, I was also working on Hyperslice, trying to finish it, so it was a lot of work. I do not recommend. The idea was to publish the page to make the game public while continuing to work on Hyperslice. Unless your game is a crazy outlier, you need a bit of time to gather wishlists. So that would allow me to start gathering wishlists, feedback, and start getting the name out there. I published the Steam page with the playtest registration open at the same time. and I think that was a very good idea. I knew it would get a small boost when announcing the page, so this brought a lot of eyes to the game, letting players not only wishlist, but also register for the playtest and get excited about playing it early. It worked pretty great overall. I didn't get a crazy amount of wishlist, but it was definitely better than with Hyperslice, and I got a lot of people to register to the playtest. The response was pretty good, and people seemed excited about the game, which was honestly super motivating. I won't go into the details in this video, but I got a bunch of signals throughout development telling me that the game had a good potential. I wrote a blog post about it on Patreon, available for free if you're interested. The TLDR is that I got more wishlists than Hyperslice, more interactions on socials, people wanting to play, good feedback during playtests and the demo, and a bunch of team events accepting my participation. Overall, nothing crazy, no crazy hype or huge YouTubers playing the game, but a much better reception than Hyperslice. So far, I only talked about the gameplay, but I quickly got an idea to have a cozy magic theme for the game. I thought it would fit well and give a lot of ideas to work with. Creatures, spells, scrolls, potions, etc. Of course, it also helped with naming the game, as spelling and spells share the same root. With the aesthetic, I was also trying to do two things. One, do something different than my previous two games, with a simpler look that requires less VFX but can still be fun and, most importantly, juicy. Second, making the game look approachable. Later games can feel very nerdy, and I wanted a cool aesthetic that could attract various people and potentially cozy gamers. Lexispell is not a complex game. A lot of the effort went into the UI and UX, and it evolved a lot throughout the development and of course based on feedback. It was also slightly challenging at times to make sure that the game would behave well with a mouse, a keyboard, gamepad, but also touch. So far, I think I've done a pretty good job, but of course it's an ongoing process. I also forgot to mention that the game was made in English and French, pretty much from the beginning. This made development slightly harder as some upgrades are language specific. Initially, I just swapped the dictionary to a French one, but then I also adapted some of the upgrades to work in the two languages. I don't plan on supporting more languages for now, because that's quite complicated. That being said, I'm open to the idea of allowing the users to play with their own dictionaries. I'll just have to figure out how to handle specific characters and accentuated letters. But that's a problem for future me. I also spent a good amount of time adding what I would call the secondary mechanics. The scrolls, which are the main upgrades, are more core to the gameplay. They act as the jokers in Balatro, but the runes, the potions, and the wands are mechanics that are not necessarily needed per se, but they give different tools for players to adapt. Runes are passives that help spawning more of what you want, while potions and wands are active items you can use to modify a specific letter or get a temporary boost. A very good player probably doesn't really need potions and wands, for example, but it allows you to have a backup in case you're struggling. I also added small things like treasures falling in the letters that reward the players with Lexims, the in-game currency, to make things a bit more exciting as you're playing. I also started working on two special rooms, the Well and the Enchantment rooms. The goal is to give players more agency over randomness by letting them exchange between letters and items in the Well, and in the Enchantment room, the player can add a special enchantment mark on the letter. This mark will make the letter more powerful, which can be super useful to create synergies with certain scrolls. To get back to the visuals, I also started incorporating little mascots or characters in the game to make it more alive. It was my vision since the beginning, but I didn't know how, and I was initially focused on the gameplay itself. For now, I added Pip, the pigeon, to act as an instructor during the tutorial, and Henry, the shopkeeper, to run the shop. I'll also have different mages, which are simply going to give you different starting stats to make the game easier or harder, or even just give you a slightly different way of playing. Think of them as the decks in Balatro. I feel like these small details make the game a little bit more interesting, and it's something I enjoy doing. I'm not super good at art, and drawing a bit more is definitely a good challenge that is quite fun. I'm working on more characters as I'm writing this video, so I hope you will enjoy them. Two little things I added before the demo was released was a way for users to submit words and a way for users to get word definitions. This was inspired by GMTK. The dictionary will never be complete, so people can just submit missing words, and I have a little Python server running on my VPS to handle that and store the words. From time to time, I just grab the words and merge them with the current dictionary. To verify if the word exists, I just query the Wiktionary API to see if it has a definition before adding it. It's not perfect, but it's good enough in my opinion. I simply can't verify the words myself manually, and the Wiktionary has a lot of words, even newer words that could take years to appear in a more traditional dictionary. And speaking of the dictionary, there's a way to get a word definition from the pause menu. It simply makes a request to the Wiktionary API and it gives you the definitions. This is handy when you need to check what a word means or if it exists. The only issue is that some players complain that the word might not exist in the local game dictionary, but it has a definition in the Wiktionary, which can feel weird. I think it will have to stay like that for now. I don't really want to remove that feature, but I can't also make API request every time you need to verify a word. If you have a suggestion, let me know. What I really like about the development of this game so far compared to the previous ones is how smooth it is. Because I have a pretty good idea of where I want to go, most decisions are simpler to take, and I spent less time overthinking, which I often do a lot. It's definitely refreshing to make a simpler game too. Dashpong was challenging because of the physics aspect combined with the local multiplayer, which is difficult to test and makes UI more complex. But it also had a bunch of game modes that required a lot of specific code that was written for one specific use case. Hyperslice was much bigger with a lot of different enemies and quite a lot of mechanics that could interfere with each other. And that's without talking about the upgrades and the abilities for the player. Lexispell at its core is much simpler, and while the scrolls require to write a lot of logic to handle the points calculation, it is way easier to manage. The pace of the game is also way slower, so I don't encounter timing bugs or AI enemy logic bug I would have in Hyperslice. Overall, the reception has been better, and I feel like this has more potential than my previous two games. If you're interested about the more businessy aspect of all of that, don't hesitate to check out my Patreon. Most of my posts, especially about Lexispell, are free to read, and I discuss the behind the scenes a little bit more. And of course, if you have questions, ask them below. This is not the end of the video though, so stay with me. One thing that is kind of business oriented that I'm going to talk about is that publishing a polished demo on itch was a very good idea, especially with a good looking page. I was lucky enough to get featured on itch, and this brought a lot of eyes on the game. At the time of writing, I got more than 1,000 downloads and more than 23k browser plays. That's huge. The fact that people can try the game immediately through the browser is a huge advantage. It allows people to play the game even if they're on a Mac or mobile, for example, and it just removes the friction of downloading something. That's a huge positive if your game runs well on the web. Continuing with potential, I think that Lexispell is a good fit for consoles and potentially mobile. I should say console because I'm thinking about the Switch really. I was pretty far into the process of porting Dashpong to the Switch, but I kinda abandoned during the review process as they were encountering a crash that I couldn't reproduce and they didn't give me much more information. So I just lost momentum and focused on other things. Lexispell should be easier to port, and I think it can have a good public there. Let me know what you think. A lot of people have been asking about a mobile port, and right now I don't want to promise anything. I'm not against the idea, but I'll think about it after release once the game is stabilized. I'll judge if it's worth the effort when it's finally released. Mobile can be very difficult. It's really two platforms, Android and iOS, and lots of different devices, which can create many issues. I also believe that a lot of mobile users are used to free stuff, so I'm doubting if a premium model would really work. I have published free apps in the past, and the process is just getting even more tedious nowadays. I don't like how these platforms force you to update your perfectly working app for security reasons and stuff. It's a lot of work for indie devs. Finally, I don't own a Mac and I don't really want to develop for iOS, so I'm not sure how I'll approach that, honestly. If you are a mobile dev and you want to share your experience below, please do it. I'm really interested. So, with all of that said, when am I releasing? The game has a demo, it participated in Next Fest, so I should be releasing right now. Well, I'm not announcing the date now, but it's getting close. I initially thought the game would be already released, to be honest, but a few things happened and I have to delay it a bit more. I still have some work to do. If you can't wait, give the demo a try, and if you want to follow the end of the development, follow me on Steam, join the Discord, or join me live on Twitch. I'm live most days of the week to work on the game, starting at 2 p.m. CEST. I'll let you convert that to your time zone. I'm really excited to share this game with you, and I hope you'll enjoy it. I'm still open to feedback, so don't hesitate. Let me know what you think. If you know content creators or even just friends of yours that might be interested, talk to them about Lexispell. It helps a ton. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye!